Oh, sorry. I got too excited. It is Thursday, November 8th, 2018, and this is Public Hospital District Number 4 of King County Board of Commissioners meeting. Do we have the roll call, please?
We have a layout.
Oh, wait, we have a,
Middle lights? Oh,
yes, we do.
They're out so they can see the screen better.
Oh, okay.
First, we have a flag salute.
Okay.
We ready to stand for the flag
Okay.
salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please give us the roll call?
President Norris.
Here.
Vice President Herron.
Here.
Secretary Spikers.
Here.
Commissioner Pollard.
Here.
Commissioner Young. Here.
Do I have an approval for the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
A second.
I'd like to make a suggestion for a revision to the agenda, and that is under new business, item number 3, cancellation of the December 26th work study. I'd like that to read rescheduling, and I'll say more about that, but we want to make sure we've got a placeholder for us to be able to work study the letter of intent with Overlake. We may be ready for that for the November work study, but if not, we want to make sure we've got a place to do that in December.
So how would that read now?
Rescheduling.
December work study session.
Correct.
All right.
Any other discussion about that? Somebody like to, should we go ahead then and with that amendment?
I can't make motions, but
I
I
make I'll make a second motion, or at this time, the amended agenda. I asked at this time that the amended agenda with number 3 of new business change.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of adopting the agenda with that change, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes. All right. Is there any public comment? No more public comment, so we'll move on. Communications. I don't think I have anything to offer this evening, so I'm going to yield to our superintendent, Tom Harker.
Okay. You have the, I always provide the commissioners with a preview of my report. It's in your packet. It's available to the public. Before I get to that report, I'd like to read the following, and that's that on Monday, it's Veterans Day. And I'd just like to take a minute and pause and read this statement. It's actually an adapted statement from the Council of Foreign Relations regarding Veterans Day. This Monday is Veterans Day. Americans first celebrated it November 11th, 1919, 1 year to the day after the end of World War I. President Woodrow Wilson issued a message proclaiming the first celebration of Armistice Day. The holiday was meant to show gratitude for victory in World War I and solemn pride for those that died in our country's service. On that day, all business was suspended for 2 minutes, starting at 11 a.m., and parades and public gatherings commemorated the war's end. The choice of time was deliberate. The agreement ending World War I went into effect on the 11th hour, the 11th day, the 11th month in 1918. Over the years, the practice of celebrating Armistice Day spread, and states began making it a legal holiday. Congress followed suit in 1938, declaring that the November 11 holiday was, quote, dedicated to the cause of world peace and to be hereafter celebrated and known as Armistice Day. In 1954, with World War II and the Korean War having greatly expanded the number of Americans who had fought overseas, Congress renamed Armistice Day Veterans Day. In a proclamation marking the renamed holiday, President Dwight D. Eisenhower said the change, quote, expanded the significance of the commemoration by paying homage to the veterans of all wars. Roughly 18.5 million Americans are veterans. Women count for nearly 9%, or 1.6 million of all veterans, and that percentage is growing. The price of service in the military can be high. More than 1.1 million American service members have died during wartime. Nearly 4 million veterans have a service-connected disability, and 18% of veterans are enrolled in disability programs. To all America's veterans, and especially those who work and serve here at Snoqualmie Valley Hospital, we express our gratitude for your service and sacrifice.
Thank you very much.
So Monday is actually official company holiday that was enacted by this board. Dick Jones, a veteran, and Commissioner Pollard, a veteran, really championed that, and we appreciate the recognition. I know, especially those who are veterans here at the organization. Okay, we'll move into the communications. First is my transition. On our agenda today is a resolution to appoint Kim Whitcock as interim CEO. I recommended this in my resignation letter and continue to recommend that Dr. Whitcock serve as interim CEO. At that point in our agenda later tonight, I will provide a more detailed statement regarding my support for this resolution. I am working with both Dr. Whitcock and Steve Daniel to effect a smooth transition of projects and duties, and my thanks to them for taking on additional responsibilities. I want to add my thanks to this board for affording me a wonderful opportunity to serve as your CEO these last 2.5 years. It's been an amazing experience, and I will be forever grateful for your support and the working relationship that we've had. Moving on to affiliation, you see here is a little bit of a preview to letting you know that Dr. Wakeup and I had a call with Mike Marsh, CEO of Overlake today, along with Jonathan Duarte from their strategic planning department. We had a good call. We're working through some of the parts of the letter of intent, getting some of the language cleaned up there, and we talked more about the continued education that's going on for them about us as they help their board to understand critical access hospitals, public hospital districts, and most importantly, cost-based reimbursement. And we expect that their board will be ready here in the next couple weeks for us to be able to have an LOI in place, one that we can discuss at a work study session this month. Barring that, if they're not quite ready yet, we will do that in December. What we would like to do is have ready for our January board meeting, and I say January board meeting because their next meeting that they would be ready to approve the LOI would be their January board meeting, and they actually are really close, I think a day apart, Wednesday and Thursday in the second week of January, to have LOIs in front of both their board and our board. But we recognize that we want to workshop that with you in advance of you being able to approve that for the January.
May I have a comment on that?
Yeah.
I propose that we do a special meeting as soon as we get notice of the LOI, not just wait till December.
As soon as it's ready.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that would be best for us to have more time to digest.
And we'll need it during the holidays. I think that's a good idea.
Okay. We will let you know as soon as we have the version that they're ready to put in front of their board. It will be the version we put in front of you as well.
Great.
Okay. Finances. The financial report will show that in September there was a net loss of $20,000 compared to the budget net income of $10,000. Unrestricted cash rose by $626,000 to $7.5 million. Year to date, our net income is $273,000 compared to our budget of $341,000, an unfavorable variance of $68,000. Starting in August and through the rest of this year, each month, we have higher booking of contractual adjustments, which reduces our net revenue, but is also a more accurate estimate of our Medicare revenue. And I think Commissioner Spikers will talk about that during the report this evening. Year-to-date variance is also due to the timing of the rural health clinic status and the number of pharmacies that we've been able to enroll in the 340B drug program. Our average daily census in September, looking to the next month, was 24.1 compared to the budget of 22.2. That's an occupancy rate of 96%. Our ED visits in September were 284, which is under budget, which the budget being 324. Operating expenses, excuse me, I still am on September, my apologies. This is the month that you're going to see today. Operating expenses in September were 2% under budget, consistent with year-to-date. We're running 2% under budget on our expenses. Now looking forward to October, our inpatient census was even higher at 24.3. Average daily census is 97% occupancy. Our ED visits were almost to 300, but still, it's under budget. 335 is the budget. I wanted to let you know where we are with the Department of Health survey. You know, we report on the survey, and it kind of feels like, okay, the survey came and left, but there is a lot of work that goes on after the surveyors leave. Our plan of correction for the recent Department of Health survey has been submitted. An extension was also requested for the testing of outlets, and I think we talked about that at our last meeting. The testing has been completed, showing compliance with standards, and all related documentation has been submitted. I want to talk about the Stop the Bleed program. We're pretty proud of this. Chris Barnhart, nurse and ED manager, and Dr. Dwayne Anderson, who is our ED medical director, have completed Stop the Bleed training for the school nurses and the teachers at Mount Si High School, Twin Falls Middle School, Chief Cana Middle School, Snoqualmie Elementary School, North Bend Elementary, and Cascade View Elementary. Training will also be provided at Opstead Elementary and Timber Ridge Elementary. This has been a joint project with the Snoqualmie Police, the Snoqualmie Valley School District, and the hospital. And we're really proud that we've been part of this. And you know, there was a big push years ago to get automatic external defibrillators placed in public places all throughout our community. And now this is a new wave of resources of training and Stop the Bleed kits to be located everywhere in the community. And they've really taken as a point of reference wherever there is a AED, trying to get a Stop the Bleed kit mounted right next to each automatic external defibrillator. It's a tough reality of the times that we live in, but I'm really proud that we're part of the training and helping people to be able to respond to that.
May I ask the question?
Certainly, because the rest is just calendar items, so that concludes my report.
I don't see Echo Glen there.
See,
Echo Glen,
Echo Glen,
yeah.
great point. It's not part of the, so we have been doing this in conjunction with a school district.
Yeah.
But we
And they are
certainly
Issaquah School District, but they're right.
we can certainly
Down the
expand,
block.
and we'll also be talking about the Riverview School District.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just think that they're so close and we haven't.
We've done a lot of good things with them, but yes, we should have them to do
Okay.
this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for our CEO, Tom Parker?
Yeah, I have a question or two. Do we keep track of whether our patients, inpatient and outpatient, are from inside the district or from outside the district, so that could help us understand better how we should target our marketing and so forth?
We do have that information. It's zip code. We have zip code data on our patients, and we actually did a study on that for our swing bed population, showing that half of our swing bed patients are in and half of our swing bed patients are from outside the district.
Yeah, I believe you reported a long time ago that was what it was. That
Yes.
is, we get half of our patients from inside the district and half outside.
For the inpatient, for the swing bed program.
But also, I think at that time you said outpatients about the same. Is
Oh,
that-
no, oh, no.
All right.
Outpatients predominantly inside the district.
Is there any way we could have a periodic, quarterly, or a regular report on where we're getting our patients?
We could.
I'd like to see that. Now, on the health survey, you talk about outlets. We're talking about electrical outlets.
Correct.
Now, was the problem that it had to be that automatic grounding or top circuit breakers, or what was the problem?
It actually is part of, anytime that you do a remodel or a new build, part of the commissioning report that you do at the end, as the contractor turns that all back over to the hospital, and it's specific to hospitals, they have to show in that commissioning report that they've gone through and done a study, and it's interesting, I learned something. They do want to make sure that the plug is hot, but they also want to make sure that it has the proper tension. And so there's actually a very specific device that you use. You plug it into the wall and you pull back, and it shows you how much tension it takes to pull that plug. And every plug in the hospital needs to be tested. Now, our contractor, the electrical contractor who did the work in the hospital, did all that work. They did all that testing, but they couldn't produce the document that DOH wanted from them, showing that they had actually done it. And so they, at no cost to us, came back in and they retested everything. They provided that documentation for us, and we turned it into DOH.
Very good. I have a couple other questions, unless others have questions.
Does anybody else have any questions for our CEO? Continue, Commissioner.
Well, you mentioned Riverview at the end. They're not listed here, but in the medical committee report, they talked about this program being provided to the school districts. And so, of course, the problem is that Carnation is in our hospital district, but they have Riverview schools. So we want to make sure that that we do indeed offer this program or somehow work out a comparable program with Riverview. Isn't that correct? Okay, good. The other question was, it's good that we have these defibrillators and at the various locations around the district. What about access to Narcan and things like that? How do we make sure that that's available throughout the district, especially at schools and...
I'm going to defer that question to Dr. Wickoff, who would have had to correct my mistakes when I answer that question, but I know that we provide that through different points of access here.
So we provide the Narcan to any patient who comes to the emergency department or any family of someone who comes to the emergency department who's at risk for overdose. And we provide that free of charge. QFC in North Bend also is a participant in distributing, just with a prescription, Narcan into the hands of those who are at high risk. Then the police force also has Narcan available to them, as well as the ambulance services.
So the fire department people have it, and the police have it. Okay. Good. Is it, do you know whether it's available at the schools?
I don't know if it's available at the schools.
It'd be interesting to know. It might be advisable to have that in schools.
I'm not sure legally.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Without
thinking.
being trained.
We've got counsel shaking his head.
The schools do not possess that. That's what they call EMS. They call 911.
So even school nurses do not have it?
Not on the school grounds.
Okay. That's all.
Any other questions? Then we will move on. Next on the agenda is our general counsel.
Madam President and Commissioners, tonight your topic is the length and number of speeches that I'm so sure that you'll be excited to hear. And I'll comply with the rule and not use the 10 minutes that Robert's rules would afford me if there was a debate. So what it tells you here is that in a non-legislative body, which you are not, you are a legislative body, or an organization that has no special rule relating to the length of speeches, a member having obtained the floor while a debatable motion is immediately pending can speak no longer than 10 minutes unless he obtains consent of the assembly. Such permission can be given by unanimous consent. The president would say, unless I hear objection, I'll extend the member the opportunity to carry on for another minute or two. Or there can be a motion which would extend the limit of debate. That requires a 2/3 vote without debate. That's a non-debatable motion to extend debate. So when the member's time is exhausted, then the chair would rise, and in this informal setting, you would not have to do that, Madam President, and you would ask the member to immediately conclude their remarks. You call attention to the fact by an appropriate signal or by interrupting him if necessary. The chair could also appoint a timekeeper to provide assistance. That could either be your counsel or it could be the clerk. If it appears that a minute more would afford sufficient time for that member to conclude more gracefully, the chair would then ask again, unanimous consent. If I don't hear any objection, we'll let the member go on for another minute or for a short period of time. Rights in regards to debate are not transferable, so you can't yield or give your time to someone else. You have a maximum of 10 minutes on that one issue. And you can't give up your unexpired portion. You can't reserve any portion of time for a later time. That is, if a member yields the floor before speaking his full 10 minutes, he's presumed to have waived the right to the remaining time. If a speaker yields to another member for a question, the time consumed by the question then is charged to the speaker. So be on notice that if you yield to another question, that question uses up your 10 minutes, you've used your 10 minutes. And finally, the committee chairman or reporting member is not considered to be debating when they present or read the committee's report. So when you have your committee reports, that is not a debatable motion, that does not fall within the confines of this length and number of speeches. And that's my offering. I apologize that I was not here at your last meeting. I was here at your last workshop, as you held it. So you had to forego one of Robert's Rules of Education. Can I answer any questions?
I got a question.
Yes.
Can we limit it to less than 10 minutes?
Yes, you can, and as you'll note up above, unless you have a special rule. So line 2, the first paragraph, that has no special rule relating to the length of speeches. And as you know, you have the rules of procedure that's being proposed by your ad hoc bylaws committee that will make certain recommendations as to the length and number of speeches, as well as some other aspects that will address it. So yes, Secretary Spikers, you can limit that. If you don't have a limitation or a rule or a procedure, then you would then defer to Robert's Rules by default and give you 10 minutes per motion.
We can make a motion to suspend that as well.
You could also do that. You could ask the chair to suspend Robert's Rules at any time if Robert's Rules was in effect at that time, and ask that we suspend the rules and impose a new time limit for debate of any pre-designated amount, of which then it has to be by majority vote. So that would be debated. You can debate as to how long. And you'd have 10 minutes to debate how long you're going to debate. Confusion. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
The final paragraph, the committee chairman or reporting members might consider to be debating when presenting or reading the committee's report,
Right.
but is bound to obey the rules relating to the
Some-
statements in any speech made by him in support of the motion offered on
Right,
that.
so when you get to the motion of the committee, after the committee report is done, and the committee might have a motion, then you're bound then, because now you're back into a motion that's debatable.
Correct.
But not the actual reading of the report and the consideration of the report, not till you get to the motion part of the report.
Okay.
Which is usually at the end of your report, you say, now I would entertain a motion or I provide a following motion.
Are there any other questions for our legal counsel? Hearing none, we will move on. Thank you, Skip.
You're welcome.
That was helpful. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes, October 11th, 2018 regular meeting, and October 24th, 2018 work study session, and our physician credentialing.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Spiker seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, there'll be a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes with no opposition. And now we move to committee reports. And I have to find my report because I'm first. Publics.
Finance.
Are we
Finance
just-
first, not facilities, finance first.
Oh, finance is first. Great. That's not me. That's David Spikers. Okay, Commissioner Spikers.
All right, thank you. Well, I have one word about the financial, the finances, I think, that I've learned in the last 12 years. Predictable. 3 years ago, not predictable. 5 years ago, definitely not predictable. We actually have a chance to predict things, and I think when we read these reports, read all of the, you know, the expenses and the revenues, I'm always thinking, I'm talking to Steve, I said, well, is it about that much? And he says, yeah, it's probably about that much, yeah. And it's what it is. The format of these meetings is in such a way that you can almost predict based on the numbers that we get every month, which was never before, ever. We've never been able to do that. And so I guess in that regard, I will go on. And all that is to say is that it's a very positive comment on our financial department and how they, Steve and Jim and Mr. Parker, getting all these things together so that we can actually read it, decipher it, and understand it. Because, believe me, 5 years ago, it was very difficult, either that I was not understanding or I was not able to decipher what was going on, but I think it really is, we've come a long way. And
I think some of the nitpicky things we were doing, looking at every check that was spent and everything that was done, we were using a lot of staff time that wasn't really productive.
it wasn't, I think it was somewhat necessary 5 years ago.
Yeah, but not today.
But I think today, the figures are bottom line. There's no real big surprises. And when there is, for instance, a variation in expenses or variations in revenue, there's an explanation here. Look at page 2 of the financial finance committee minutes, and you'll see employee benefits were below, professional fees, there was a favorable due to, I mean, there's an explanation about each big variance on in our budget, in all of our charts that we review and the statements that we review every month. And that, to me, is transparency. Transparency is what we're all about. And again, hats off to the staff for making it be transparent. The fact that we were below budget for that month, if you recall, a couple months ago, we decided, after I kind of said, I really need to have a more accurate picture at the end of the year. I want you to really want to be close to what we predict for our budget. So Steve went back to the drawing board and said, well, we're going to allocate another $47,000. We're going to set that aside as saying we're going to be paid $47,000 less this month by Medicare reimbursement. And that's why if you add $47,000 onto the minus 19, you're above budget. So, but we're being accurate, and so that we can be predictable. We can be able to plan things and not have to worry that there's going to be a huge surprise that, you know, that is going to come up that is going to break the camel's back, so to speak. So that's what that's my that's what it's all about, I think, this month. Just really hitting home on the fact that things are more predictable. However, switching gears, if you look at, I think we had a page 3 of the report, which was not predictable. At the top, I asked a couple months ago if we could find out our days of accounts receivable, which departments were lagging about below or above the average, and what we wanted to get is about 45 days. That's our goal, new goal. And I want to know what departments, and it was not the clinics.
No,
They were
it
way
wasn't.
below. So, right where we thought the acute swing bed, we knew that it's right around 45 days because they pay once a month. And it takes a few days to get and collect a couple weeks. So the hospital outpatient is, as you may know, made up of a lot of private pay payments. And that probably is going to be looked into is how can we get the private pay commercial payments a little quicker. And I'm pretty sure that it would be difficult with insurance companies, but
Well,
staff is going to look into it. That's the
Yeah.
good thing.
I don't know about everybody else, but when I use Primera and I find out 60 days later that they just paid a portion, I mean, it's not the hospital, it's the provider, it's
Yeah.
Primera or whoever else we've got. They take their time before they do it, before they pay.
And they even have one little thing wrong. I mean, they're not, so you have to go back to the drawing
Yes.
board and resubmit it.
Yeah.
And believe me, they will do anything they can to delay, deny, and later defend the ruling, so.
That's because they're for profit.
President, you're making comments in the middle of the report. Can others make comments now?
Well, I'm on the committee. As soon as the chair is ready to ask for comments, then the head of the committee asks for comments,
So,
yes.
anyway, let's get to the debt service coverage. We're well above that, 1.7 versus 1.2 is what we were mandated to have. 94 days in cash in hand. It's well above what we needed under the covenants of our bonds. I know I passed over some things, but a lot of information in here. I mean, I think you're going to get, I think you probably get more information when we get into the budget, actual budget next week, about these volumes and year-to-dates and what we are under and what we're over. And we're definitely, even though imaging has increased, it's below, I think, on the budget a little bit. And that was due to some snafus with the equipment as well as employees, I think it was not able to, somebody
It's in staff
gone.
turnover.
Yeah, staff turnover too, yeah.
So, endoscopy, I believe it's over volume this year, and these are all things that you should consider when looking at the budget for next year. I don't want to get into the budget because it's not the item today, so I'll look at what we provided to you last week or 2 weeks ago. Was it last week? Anyway.
Yeah, and we'll look again tonight at the budget.
The emergency department is below what we expected, and that's, again, maybe brand name would help quite a bit, so that's where we're at up there. If there are any other questions, I don't really want to get into the real detailed numbers here, they're there if you need them, being transparent. So if there are questions, comments, Commissioner Pollard, you have?
Well, I just note that you have a section of your presentation called Other, but the items have to do with the budget, which you really don't want to discuss tonight, so I'll hold off on that. Okay.
Right. And that, with that, if there are any other comments, I do want to make a motion to approve the warrants for this month, if there are no other comments.
Are there any other comments? Hearing none, make the motion.
I'll make a motion then to approve the warrants of $2,467,652.70. And the one thing that I always like to see is that retirement 457, 403B, and the matching plans. There's over $80,000 this month, and that's good. That's good. Employees are thinking ahead, so.
Do I hear a motion, a second?
A second.
Any further discussion about the warrants? Commissioner Pollard?
How does our policy regarding Medicaid patients impact our warrants, our financial status? There are hospitals who say we'll admit patients regardless of their source of payment, and they have an open door policy on Medicaid patients. We seem to have a quota. I'm concerned about unnecessary restriction on accepting Medicaid patients, and it's really not very clear to me what our policy is.
I can talk to that because I've already talked about this at least 6 times in the past. We've come up with this discussion and have this answer. The answer is we have an open door for anybody who comes to our emergency department.
Yes.
Everybody. As far as our swing beds, is that what you're talking about?
Swing bed and outpatient, just anything other
Well,
than, everyone understands that anybody can come to the emergency room and get care.
And you have to have a referral to go to the specialty care, so we would probably be at our clinic or someone else's clinic to get a referral to our specialty care. That's number, and then
What are you defining as specialty care?
all the outpatient services, except
There's no limitation in health insurance.
yeah, so, yeah, there's never been any limitation as long as you have a referral. And as far as our swing beds, if we were to, we actually have a limit on our Medicaid-based pay. The reason is if we had more than 1 or 2 Medicaid patients in our swing beds, this hospital would go under.
Yeah.
Quickly.
And does that comply with the law?
Yes.
In other words, are we obliged to
Yes.
make the
We
swing bed program accessible?
We abide by every statute, every law, every rule of authority, and there's no reason to even question that. This has been discussed so many times in the past, Commissioner Pollard, I'd ask at this point that this discussion be closed.
All right, so we're ready.
Well, let me continue the question then. As I understand it, if a person goes to the emergency room and they need specialty care, they will get a referral to specialty care, even if they are a Medicaid patient. Is that correct?
Sure.
But if they don't come through the emergency room, can they enter the hospital and get outpatient and
Absolutely.
and for that matter, a swing bed? Okay.
No,
No, yeah,
that's
we're
a different,
referral.
that's a different process. It's a whole different process. Swing bed, may I? Swing
Yes,
beds,
you may.
swing bed patients come to us through a referral from a referring hospital, and they go through a series of criteria, assessment against criteria, whether or not it's a good fit, whether or not they qualify for skilled care, good fit being that medical qualification, whether or not they have insurance, whether or not they're Medicaid, and we take a look at whether or not we have hit our Medicaid. The question is specific to Medicaid, whether or not we're at or below or above budget on Medicaid days, and that becomes part of the criteria as well. But swing bed patients go through a myriad of checks, not just whether or not what their payer status is.
Did we ever resolve the problem of the overstayer that has been
I
here
won't
2 or
comment
3
on
years?
that. I won't comment on that here. I decline to comment
Well,
on
that
that.
certainly is a barrier to utilizing the one quota that we have for Medicaid patients.
I think it's time to move on past Finance Committee. Is there any other questions for Finance
Can I
Committee?
get an answer to that?
I don't think so. I think the CEO
I'm
said he
declining
would decline
comment
to
on a
answer that.
specific patient.
Are we not voting on a motion?
That's what I
Yes, we
thought.
are.
All in
Okay.
favor? or-
Yes, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, so we have one opposed and just one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Medical Committee. Young? Eric, which one do you want to use?
Commissioner Young?
Commissioner Young?
A lot of this, the CEO has covered. I will tell you, the flu immunization outreach events in October, 7 community locations on the calendar with multiple days at some sites, approximately 120 administrations completed. On November 17th, we will deliver a Train the Trainer event for the National Sales Program, Staying Active and Independence for Life. And my understanding is going to be in several places. Here, at the hospital. Okay, you heard about the DOH plan. Mandatory flu immunization for employees has been highly successful. All but 3 employees now in compliance. Snoqualmie Valley is participating in Health Connect, Microsoft's neural network health insurance effective January 1st. Participation possible by way of our participation in Eastside Health Clinic with Integrated Network, EHN, in collaboration with Overlake and Evergreen.
Could you explain a little bit more about that, Commissioner Young?
I think I'm going to defer to Dr. Rickard.
About Health Connect.
Yeah.
So Health Connect is a new direct contracting between the employer, Microsoft, and EHN to be one of the 3 health plans that are offered to Microsoft employees. So this year they are offered a Kaiser plan, they're offered a health savings account plan to pay for their health care, and then they're offered this Health Connect product. And so the anticipation is that there'll be a fair amount of selection, and this product, this third product, the Health Connect product, can only be utilized in the EHN network, unless a waiver is granted to go outside that network. And we are part of that EHN network. So our anticipation is that we will see some patients who will transition into their current insurance plan allows them to go into a broader network than will be the case January 1. It'll shrink down.
Thank
So
you.
it's very impressive that EHN has been able to put this together. It's a very amazing product. And Microsoft is very sophisticated when it comes to developing insurance for their employees. This is a reflection of their ability to have an engagement with that level of sophistication.
Thank you.
Question, Madam President.
Commissioner Pollard?
Yeah, do we have any patients that are utilizing this method of payment, or have we had any patients from this source?
Health Connect is brand new, and it goes into effect January 1,
Oh, it only goes into effect in January.
That's what it says here, effective January 1.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. All right, continuing on. The Harbor View Telestroke program will go live slated for the week of December 10th. It's doing good. You heard about the stock of lead. Very important thing, the pharmacy verification of ED orders started October 8th. We're now the only one of a handful, we're the only one of a handful of hospital EDs in the state in compliance with the corresponding act, which means in the emergency room, the doctor prescribes the medication, it has to be verified by a pharmacist, which we do telephonically at night. Okay. Staffing is now in place for daily ultrasound schedule, and staffing will be in place in early December for day and nighttime CT coverage. In-house with only 2 nights covered by call. And infection prevention, Century 7 software tool to overlay our EHR to extract information pertaining to infections and antibiotic treatments. In the process of due diligence to confirm it's capable of performing as needed, anticipated to replace at least 0.3 FTE work. Moving on down, the medical staff have their quarterly meeting in annual June, November 7th. Officers, Wayne Anderson, elected chief of staff, David Taylor, immediate task chief of staff, Ashton Badari, chief of staff elect, John Sindorf, member at large, and Gabrielle Poulon, member at large. Initial privileging to all of the other privileging and renewals were to teleradiology staff. I move for approval of.
Okay,
That
motion,
motion.
that's good.
I think we've already approved in the consent agenda.
Consent agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay.
Okay, moving on. Yeah.
Physicians credentialing was approved in the consent agenda, but
Yeah.
not necessarily the whole report.
Well, the
And of course,
report
we don't,
doesn't have to be reported.
doesn't have to be approved, you're right. I do have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, on advanced care planning services, AKA honor and choices, is that only for inpatients or is that for the general public?
General public.
How are
It's
we,
an outpatient
how are
service.
we offering that to the general public?
It's an outpatient service, so it's done through referral from clinics as well as anybody can call in. So it's
Okay.
just relaunching.
I see. I just wonder how, let's say, a caregiver with an elderly patient might make contact with that program.
It's just a phone call to make an appointment for
I
it.
know, but how do they find out about the existence of this?
We are just relaunching it later this month, so once it's relaunched, then we'll start letting it know that they can call it.
Oh, I see. So you'll have publicity at that time. On the telestroke program, how does that work? Does that mean that we have a connection between our ED and Harborview?
Yes, so I'll use the example of Skype. It is non-Skype. It's not, but if I just have you the image of Skype in your mind, that's what it's like. And so it is a video and audio connection, but through a HIPAA-compliant, high-speed internet connection. And so the neurologist at Harborview is virtually present in the room, of course, evaluating the patient's history. There's also other connections outside of the audio-video connection that's transmitting other patient information back and forth. So there's CT scans being transmitted, there's vital signs, there's other clinically relevant information that's being transferred over those ancillary lines, so that the neurologist at the other end has all of that information available to be a participant in the care.
Okay, now you know that Evergreen Health, Evergreen Hospital, has been considered or is rated one of the top 5 stroke centers in the nation. It's got many honors. Now, if we were to affiliate with Overlake, that would be the Eastside Health Network, would we have an advantage in being able to share something with Evergreen since we would be part of that network? I see here you're talking about Harborview. What about sharing with the 5 top stroke centers in the United States, namely Evergreen?
Those are the conversations that we would have to have once we actually get into the negotiation.
The final question is, immunizations, we have 120 administrations completed, that means 120 people got the shot.
Through the outreach events.
Through the
Through the
outreach.
outreach events.
Okay, I see, so you mean that some people get the shot inside the hospital, but the 120 are getting them from some sort of outreach event. Does that include the special shot for seniors, the special flu shot for seniors?
It is the quadrivalent flu
Yeah.
immunization, yes.
Well, it's great that we've gotten this started again, but we got 50,000 people in this district, and 120 seems awfully modest. I just wondered, is there any way to kickstart this and get more, whether it be a significant number that are getting the flu shots through our
I think that's
outreach?
making the presumption that people did, that the other 10 to 20,000 people did not get a flu shot. The large majority of them do. They're just not through our outreach services.
Yeah.
They get through theirs.
Are we doing our part if we're only
Absolutely.
administering 120?
We're administering far more than that. It's just 120 through the outreach efforts. These are going to locations of people who they otherwise can't get in easily. So we're going to senior centers, we're going to the adult family homes, retirement centers. Those are all the places that we're going. Because that means these people are, it's really difficult for them to get out.
And that adds up to 120. All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for medical committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to facilities. Facilities committee met on October 22nd at 8:30 a.m. One of the major topics of discussion was King County Search and Rescue and their lease revision. Tom Parker shared with the committee some issues that they were having. The King County Department of Permitting is requiring that they have requirements that meet and use for the East Campus. And one of them has to do with an investment of $50,000 requirements for sewage, impact on sewage. The goal is for us to give them a lease that will help them realize the $50,000 as being a good investment. And we then we'll promise them a current term of 2 years, and the amount of investment could be amortized over the life of the contract. If early termination occurs, the district could buy out the contract for the amortized amount. Committee agreed to have Tom ask King County Search and Rescue to obtain quotes for the work that would have to be done to meet the requirements so that it could be brought before the full board for discussion. And I don't know if you've done that yet.
We don't have it yet, but
Okay.
they're aware that that's what we need.
Okay. Economic Development Commission, Tom shared some things about what we're going on in the community, Salish expansion, master plan has made an application, the mill pond's going to be a while before that happens, I can tell you that. Public comment and draft impact statement will be noticed for January 2019. Height ordinance, the height ordinance, there was discrepancy between the ordinance and the zoning of 30 feet versus 35 feet. So they're trying to relook at the ordinance. Panorama Apartments, this project is underway, and with most of the clearing completed, the city has committed to notifying local employers when applications will be taken so that they may notify their employees. SR 90 and 18, nothing has happened. Yes, there is a resolution on the way, until we get a resolution on the way station. City announced there will be a new wayfinding sign for SR 202, Snoqualmie Parkway. This will engage signage for historic Snoqualmie. And you have a list of those entities that are using our hospital on the back page. We used this at the hospital meeting this last month in November, and I don't think I need to go through them because you all have them. And is there any other? We didn't have any other. We did not have public comment. And our next meeting is Monday, November 26, 2018 at 8:30. And we're in the East West Conference Room upstairs. And we adjourned at 8:59. Any questions for
I do.
facilities?
I do.
Okay, David.
This King County Search and Rescue, this came up about last year. We approved
Yeah.
no $1 a year or something like that to help them out. And I was concerned at that time whether a new entity, if they wanted to affiliate with the district, would have an issue with them being on that piece of property. And I think we put in the agreement, if they did have an issue, we would buy back whatever their best portion of their pro rata share, because they put in 50 grand. I think.
They put in some, but nothing close to 50 at this point.
Yeah, so now they want another extension, is that
Yes,
right?
they'd like a longer term, because they are looking at about $50,000 in investment, and they'd like a longer term in order to feel like they've got some stability and a return on that investment.
Sure.
I'll just add a couple other points. And one is that in our conversations with Overlake, East Campus really isn't on their list. They would like to do a lease operating agreement for hospital and clinics, and East Campus is not. something that would be interrupted by an affiliation agreement.
Okay.
And then the other is that if something significant were to happen on East Campus, it would be a significant positive cash flow to the district, and paying out the pro rata amount of $50,000 back to King County Search and Rescue would be a small amount compared to what the district would be contemplating getting, for example, if it were a sale of that property. So I am recommending that we extend their lease as soon as we get the very specific information about the cost of those upgrades.
So it's kind of odd, I mean, that they are, I hope, can I keep-
Yes, you may, Commissioner Spikers, yes.
Kind of odd that it cost $50,000 to figure out the impact on sewage. You sure that's?
It's an upgrade to the sewage, to the system.
System.
Oh,
So they have to
okay.
reseal it.
It's upgrade, it's a physical upgrade to the system. Yeah, and the county is saying that needs to be done if you're going to have this much activity on the site.
Can't they do it just afford it?
I wish they could.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they were on the property that much. Really?
Now, my question would be, which I probably should have asked at committee, is this 50,000 improvement going to stay with the land? It will be a good improvement for the land regardless, will it not?
Regardless, yeah, they can't take it with them.
Yeah, so it's an investment.
It improves our assets.
Yeah, so it improves our,
It's a fixture.
yeah.
Okay, so I guess the other thing is if, let's say, some weird fate that we decide to sell it at 25 million parcel, and they've been on it for 3.5 years. It would be a pro rata share of that 50,000.
A year and a half, a year and a half worth of the 5. You should have said 1 year, I could have done that.
Yeah, it'd be easier, David.
Okay, okay, all right. No further questions. Thank
Does
you.
anybody else have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Pollard.
Okay, I have similar questions about this same thing. The thing that's odd is bullet 2 says one of the requirements is the King County Search and Rescue must certify their impact on sewage. Well, I don't think it takes $50,000 to certify the impact. It sounds more like the fourth bullet is talking about actual physical improvements.
That's what the cost is.
But what about bullet 2? Can we just deal with bullet 2 at least at the beginning and help them certify?
In order to certify, you have to make the physical changes to the system.
Okay, so not only must they certify the impact on sewage, they must comply with the requirements regarding sewage.
Of course, everybody must.
Yes. Yeah, so it's a upgrade the system and then certify that it is meeting standards.
The compliance results in the certification. You can't get certification without compliance.
Now, there's no chance that the district would be obliged to come up with any part of this initial $50,000, is that correct?
No, we're
Or
simply
having
being
an
asked to give them
obligation to a third party that's assisting them getting the $50,000.
That is
Nothing
correct.
like that.
No financial impact here, no financial request from Search and Rescue. They're just wanting some stability so that their investment has, has some payback in terms of how long they get to use the property.
We actually get $1 a year.
I can't remember. Steve.
1 or 3, something like that. Yeah, it's not much.
Well, anyway, the next step is to get quotes for the work. So
Correct.
that's what we're waiting on, and you have a projected date on
I
that.
don't have that.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any
King
other
County has
questions?
to permit this as well. There's a bunch of permitting steps we go through, so this is going to take a little while.
Yes,
It's not going to happen overnight.
it will.
Any other questions? Hearing none, then we will move on. Next on our agenda is the Ad hoc Bylaws Committee. Commissioner Harry?
The ad hoc bylaws committee met prior to the board meeting for the 13th time. We are pleased to announce that we have completed the review of the bylaws as directed by the President and the Board. We have created a red line, blue line, striped out draft for the Board's consideration and adoption. We have also produced a rules of procedure for the Board's review and consideration. Both of these documents, there's the same type of documents that we have, are they provided to the Board at this time? Okay. Pursuant to our bylaws, we are introducing these two documents and a draft resolution, and would ask that the adoption be placed on the agenda for a subsequent board meeting to be adopted. We would ask that these two documents be placed on the agenda for the December 13th board meeting in order to assist and prepare the board members further for that December 3rd board meeting. We are also providing to the board this evening a memorandum with background information and the draft resolution along with a prior background information memorandum, and that has been provided to the board previously. So on behalf of the Ad Hoc Bylaws Committee, we thank you for the opportunity to assist the board in this effort. Thank you. And now do I read the resolution?
You don't need to because it's not being adopted. It's
Okay.
just being provided and introduced to the board members for the next
Yeah,
subsequent.
we
meeting.
can't vote on it until next meeting. Nothing to- It was
Not
not
for
the-
discussion, debate, or voting tonight.
Yeah, well, see, it wasn't the agenda, I thought it might be part of it. Yeah, no, that's all I have. Thank you, Commissioner Herron, and thank you, all of you that worked on this, Joan, you and Skip, for getting this done and doing it as quickly and thoroughly as you did. We appreciate that. At least I do, and I assume the rest of the board does. Okay. Old business, affiliation update. Who's going to do
I
that?
provided that in my
I think you
my
did.
report, so.
Would you like to skip over that?
Yep.
We will skip over
That
that.
was definitely in the report.
Okay, new business, introduction of the 2019 budget. Our CFO, Steve Daniel.
And in case you can't see the screen, there is a handout of the slides.
This is the same budget you saw about 2 weeks ago. And it's not the same budget because the reason is not that we haven't looked at it more, that we haven't had more discussion on individual items. Same budget because we've had discussion on individual items and said, okay, we're staying with these assumptions. Just as a comic aside, I was in a meeting with our controller talking about the benefits budget, and he finally turned to me and said, is this just a meeting to handle your angst? And I said, yes, it is. Okay. Assumptions, again, no increases in patient volumes and revenue due to affiliation, but we have budgeted affiliation expense of $200,000. And that, the more we look at it, that looks like a pretty reasonable number for a 6-month affiliation process. Thank you. Well, that's exciting. Full staffing of the executive team. Now, we realize we will have a vacancy most likely in the CEO for a while, but we've left the money in there. So there's a little more cushion in the budget. Patient volumes are flat, except for an increase in imaging, which we talked about last time. You know, we think with the process improvements we have made in imaging, we can see an increase in there, not only in imaging, but in marketing imaging services to providers in the area. Next. Oh, okay, thank you. Just shows that patient volumes are flat except for imaging. Next. Salary increases. We have budgeted a 3% salary increase. The Seattle area consumer price index increase is 3.1% to 3.2%, depending on which measure you use. Both of them are published. And Milliman, which is a consulting firm that publishes human resource and staffing level data, has polled all of the healthcare organizations in this area, and the average is a 3% increase. So we're with the industry average on that. Next, benefits. A large portion of our expense. We go to market every year, and we are renewing with our current plan. It's an 8% increase. We went to market and found that mostly we got declined to quote. What that means is that, like Aetna looked at it and says, I cannot match what your current quote is, so we don't want to spend the resources quoting. So we're renewing with our current benefits plan, which is Primera. Primera is the larger networks in the area, and so our employees and you guys as participants in our program have access to a wide variety of providers. Expense budget, supplies, we use inflation-based increases based on type of supply. Pharmaceuticals go up higher than standard supplies, and we factor all that in. Staffing levels, we meet with each manager in each department and go over their staffing requirements for the upcoming year based on our volume requirements. And we do a bottoms-up budget, so it's not just Tom, Kim, and I sitting in a room and throwing darts at a board. It's very in-depth discussions with our managers on here's what we have programmatically and what do you need to support those programs, and there's challenge back and forth. And I think our managers like it. That was kind of a joke. They actually do very well. And it's not top down, and it makes them, it's a good buy-in for them on this.
Steve, I think there's a question.
Yeah, I assume with the staffing levels, if we know the number of patients we have, that we staff to accommodate those number of patients. And we're pretty consistent if we look at our head count, aren't we? So it should be pretty accurate.
It's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I would think so, okay.
And department level expenses, travel and such, training, again, that's planning with the managers and that back and forth. Medicare daily rate, which is a big one. We're using the latest estimate from our cost report there.
What are we at right now? What do we set aside? What is it?
We're about this rate right now.
Right now?
Yeah.
And we're right around 2,800 to begin
27, 28, yeah.
on the budget for this year.
Yeah, that's the latest estimate we have, and we feed the information to our cost report preparer, and they really use the cost report software, which is a very complicated process, and say, okay, here's what your rate should be.
And how much in revenue are we going to be as far as, since we're being more efficient? How much in revenue is that going to cost us?
Meaning?
Because our rate is at 2740 versus, say, last year we thought it might be 2,800. I think
Yeah, it'll be a little less revenue. I couldn't give you an exact number, but it's probably the best estimate we can get.
$500,000 maybe.
I'm not going to do the math in my head right now, because I would tell you wrong. Okay, I need a calculator to do that, David.
But I will say that it's using that 2747 multiplied by the assumption that we have about volume. And so when you see the revenue number, that's the product of the 2747 times the projected volume.
And the projected volumes
You
are...
want questions as you go along?
20,
I do have one
yeah,
on that
22
point.
Okay, just the projected inpatient volumes, which is really what that drives, 22.8, which is where we average where we are now. So you don't see a big increase.
What do we figure that's what we've averaged this year, basically at this point.
Mhm.
And we thought it was gonna be 22.5, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, and with the last few months, we're probably a little
22.2 is our
higher.
budget, current year budget.
Mhm. Commissioner Pollard, do you have a question?
Yeah, who is our cost report preparer?
It's a accounting firm called Wipfli, W-I-P-F-L-I.
Yeah.
And
Is there
additional-
actually a disincentive to become more efficient because that means that our full cost reimbursement is going to be less? Is there actually an unintended built-in disincentive to become more efficient?
It could be. We have not had it that way. That's why we instituted benchmarking and such. Because let's, I'm going to just try to phrase this a little bit. Say I save expense in the med-surg area and we're 85%, let's say we're 80% cost-based reimbursed. So I only save 20 cents on the dollar. We still want to save that 20 cents on the dollar because it's real money. So we have not adopted a philosophy that because we're cost-based reimbursed, there is not the incentive to save and be more efficient. We have the philosophy head on that we want to be more efficient.
Yeah.
Good question.
I want to follow up on that because you and I have talked in Finance Committee about this. Is if we, let's just say we don't want to be efficient, we want to get more money per patient day. We want to bring in only 21 people. That is not good. And the reason is because all of the ancillary services
Are not being used.
that are on a fixed
Staffing costs.
expense.
Yeah.
Really, you want to get as much volume as you can into the hospital, and there's no incentive to be less than efficient.
There,
So,
the way the cost report works, even with cost-based reimbursement, there is an incentive on the inpatient side to be as full as possible. Every analysis we've had done, you've seen it when we had looked at the bonds and we had the financial feasibility study done. No, the more inpatient, the more volume in all areas, the better for us, even though we're a cost-based reimbursement. Next, 340B program. New program came online this year. We overestimated it this year. We thought it would come online with more providers, more pharmacies participating. So we're using what we have this year, about $17,000 a month in revenue. And that's a good number, and that's history. So we've got a better history on that.
This only applies to our in-house pharmaceutical program, or is it for the public also?
We are the ones that receive the savings, the public does not. Okay. Rural health clinic, we talked about that. We had an analysis done and we came up with two numbers because we will get what's called an average encounter rate in the state our first year. The state says its average encounter rate is $138. Wipfli says, well, you're actually wrong, you've calculated it wrong, and you probably have. It's 175. We use 138 because we want to be conservative. And getting the healthcare authority, who calculates this, to make a change would be difficult. So we've gone with the lower rate. And again, a reasonable number.
Yeah, and just to note, even at that lower rate, this program is very advantageous.
It's very advantageous. It's $271,000 more revenue, which is very good. So, this is the same budget you saw last time. You see it again. And bottom line, $192,000. Conservative budget. When I say conservative budget, that means is you have a chance that you could actually do better than that. And we will not, we're continually looking at how we can be more efficient. There's something we haven't thought of that we'll implement, and new programs and such. And we are marketing ourselves to become more efficient. I'd like to be there. Questions, comments?
Is this 2019 budget, is it monthly?
No,
I mean,
this is
just
the
2019.
annual. This
Oh,
is
I
annual.
know, but is this 16,941, 589? Or is that 16 million?
16 million.
Okay, because you said 192,000.
No, that's the bottom line.
That's bottom line.
The bottom line, okay,
Yeah.
okay, just wanted.
We finance people, so we go to the bottom line. So
Okay.
That's
Okay.
a net
Yeah, 'cause I was
income
just
of
worried.
192,000.
Okay. I was like, wow, that's,
So-
okay, so it is, I know it's an annual, just wanted clarification.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, Commissioner Moore?
On the benefits page,
Mhm.
Kaiser says, quote, being analyzed by management may not make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, if we go with Kaiser, we don't have a contract with Kaiser. We have tried, and they said no. We would lose about, I think the number was 350,000 in revenue from treating our own employees, because our own employees could not be treated here.
Why can't we get a contract with Kaiser?
They said no. They're a, maybe a narrow network, what do they call it?
They're an insulated.
An insulated network, yes. We're so narrow. And they said no. We've asked them, they said, no, we don't want to expand.
Yeah. Well, I just comment that Primera there's some problems with Primera. 3 of my providers refuse to deal with Primera. When I get my EOB, they just say outpatient or office visit. They don't tell me what doctor was involved. There's some real problems, and they use an outfit called Evacor to deal with physical therapy, occupational therapy, massage therapy. And until recently, they required a new referral every 2 or 3 appointments. In contrast to Kaiser that said you got 20 appointments for the year, use them how you want. But I understand there's been state legislation to say, to require insurance companies to give people 5 appointments for PT and so forth before they get into questioning them through operations like Evacor and so forth. Do you know anything about that?
No. I do know that.
Not the legislation.
Yeah, I do know that being in the industry on the provider side, all providers have issues with all insurance companies. And the back and forth and the rejection of claims and the resubmission, David talked about accounts receivable. One of the reasons our accounts receivable is at the 50-day mark, and most hospitals are 40 to 50, should be able to collect them in 30, is the back and forth you have to go with insurance companies. So we all do feel some frustration at times with insurance companies, whoever they are.
Plus you get the frustration from the patient side
Yes.
also, because patients think that they are going to have something covered, and then Kaiser or any other entity will come back and say, sorry, for some reason, this is not covered. So now that puts a burden on the patient. So it's pretty complicated
It's
and
It's a
difficult.
system we have that has developed over 50 years, and it's not perfect, but it's probably getting a little better.
Thank you.
I got one comment. I think this is probably the most honest budget that we've had predicted. in the
Well,
last
you've
10
been here longer than I have, and so has Joan and Commissioner Pollard, but I think it's a huge improvement over what we've had in the past.
I just really think it is very honest, and I think we're probably going to be about the closest we've been ever predicting what we're going to end up with next year.
Are there any other
Any
questions
questions?
from the board to, yes? Commissioner Pollard?
Yeah, on your statement regarding the salary increases, it might be useful to mention or view among your cited statistics that Social Security's cost of living increase will be 2.8, and the federal cost of living is also 2.8.
You saw that.
That's not listed.
Okay, I did see that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Now we come to, let's see, where we just did the budget. Resolution number 547118, appointing the interim CEO.
I would like to thank you. I introduced this
Yes, you did.
onto our agenda, and I would like to read a statement which is a little more detail about my recommendation of Dr. Wickup to serve as interim CEO. I consider it, well, thank you, Val. It's my statement here for your reference, and it's available for the public as well. I consider it a requisite that I provide you with a recommendation with respect to the appointment of Dr. Wickup as interim CEO. I have worked with Dr. Wickup for the last 8 years. She is the smartest person I know. She's also one of the hardest working people I know. She expresses her intelligence and commitment to the district with humility, honesty, thoughtful intent, patience, and compassion. Dr. Wickup thinks strategically, plans extremely well, and knows and manages details. Her broad and deep understanding of the operations, clinical processes, and revenue cycle of the organization is unmatched. She lives the philosophy of just culture, and she focuses on quality work. She focuses our quality work on process improvement and the advancement of employee skills and knowledge. She knows and works well with staff in all departments. This combination of process improvement and positive relationships allows her to successfully drive continual quality improvement across the organization. She is a unique and highly valuable asset to the district, and I strongly recommend her to serve the district as interim CEO upon my departure. And I would entertain, I'd like to have a motion or actually, I'm sorry, there is a resolution in the package that you don't need to entertain a motion. Thank you.
Are there any, is there any discussion?
I have a question for Dr. Wickup. It's not a bad one. How are you going to manage this? I mean, it seems like a lot is going to be put on you, and it's going to be very stressful with potential affiliation. Who's going to take over your duties that you're continually doing? Do you have another person, a duplicate up there?
Like one. No, it's really going to be a matter of thinning out things that I just really can no longer do, so it's a prioritization answer. There's some projects that are currently up that I'm working on that I'm really aggressively trying to wrap up by the end of the month, so that those are no longer on my plate. I won't start any new projects. I did hear Steve say that there may be things in the future, but if I'm busy, then I don't come up with ideas of things to do. So it really will be a matter of wrapping up what I'm currently doing and not starting fresh things, so that I've got a little more capacity to boundary set.
Are there any other questions? I'd like to make a comment. It used to be that CEOs for hospitals were doctors.
Yeah.
Doctors used to run them, and they did a very good job for a long time. And so I see Dr. Woodcock as a very capable lead physician that can do an executive position. I think she's probably one of the best communicators that I have ever come across. And in the medical profession and in business, communication to me is everything. And so I appreciate that particular strength that she has. Not everybody has that. So for me, that's what I'm going to lay on the table. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
I'd like to applaud Dr. Wickup for all the work that she does for our medical community. Very, very knowledgeable, very, very humble. Answers a lot of maybe some of my stupid questions.
No questions.
No questions are stupid.
No.
Maybe some of my questions that is repetitive. She's very patient and just very understanding about, all the process that the commissioners have to go through. And she listens, and she makes sure that she's prepared if there's some education classes or ongoing continuing ed that we need to do. She's right there and looking to see what can she provide for us. I think that's excellent. I applaud you for that. Thank you, Dr. Wickham. Even for the short time, well, 2.5 years. Thank you. That I've known you.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none.
We'll just move on. We'll get business.
We'll do new business after we have public comment. Okay, do we need to, I want to clarify number 3.
Val is going to be working with all of our schedules to reschedule the December 26th work study session. It may be just it may be a placeholder if we can use the November work study session in order to dive into the LOI. But if the LOI is not ready, we want to make sure we've got a date in December to do that.
Okay. Does everybody understand that? Okay, so we will move on to public, is there any other questions or discussion about it? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. Is there any public comment? And there is.
Scott Sokop for Seattle, and I'd just like to congratulate Dr. Whitcock. Good choice.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none, now this is a resolution. Let's see, we'll go to now to new business, which is action items. Resolution number 547-118, appointing an interim CEO. Dr. Whitcock is the one that we are voting on. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
So there should be a motion to adopt the resolution.
Oh, that's right. Somebody, thank you. Somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 547-1118, appointing interim district superintendent and chief executive, Dr. Whitcock.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I think you're right, Commissioner Young. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, 4 ayes and 1 opposed. Do.
Roll call vote, please.
President Norris,
Aye.
Vice President Herron,
Aye.
Secretary Spikers,
Aye.
Commissioner Young,
Aye.
Commissioner Fowler.
No?
Thank you. It passes. All right, now the next thing on our new business is cancellation of December. We're going to reschedule that, so that's on the side. Does anybody have any other?
I do.
Okay, Commissioner Spikers.
I will be in Arizona at my son's graduation on December 13th. It only happens once in a lifetime, so I have to be there. And so I can potentially be available, but I'm not sure.
Would you like to be excused if need
But
be?
I would if need be, and if there's a possibility of a call-in, obviously I'll read all of the materials, and if there is a vote, I would like to be present by telephone.
Yeah, because December 13th is when we have to adopt and approve our rules of procedure and the bylaws. Because that's the deadline that we want to make sure that, so.
And I
I
suspect.
don't know if I do want to try it. I don't know what time. Some 13, I should ask my wife.
And I suspect we cannot move our regular meeting, can we?
You can. You can have a special meeting, you can cancel your regular meeting, you can reschedule your regular meeting. Any meeting that's not on a scheduled date becomes a special meeting.
When do you be back, Mr. Spikers?
The following Monday, I'll be back.
December 17th is the following Monday.
And when are you leaving?
Would I be, if I was potentially be available for telephone, could I do that?
To vote by then you have already an idea what the bylaws
Is that,
are.
do I have to do it by proxy or what?
No, you can't have a proxy vote on the boards. You would vote telephonically. The telephonic requirements would be that you can hear and you can listen, and you have the ability to communicate, and you received all the materials prior to the meeting, and you verified, certified you've read those materials. Otherwise, you could participate by telephone.
I would be willing to see us move the meeting to Monday when Mr. Sparker's going to be here.
Let me see if I get, I just put in a text to my wife.
Okay.
That was on the 13th, so I hope, maybe it's not wrong. But I know I won't be here on the 13th. I'm leaving in the morning, so.
So if you leave in the morning, flying to, where are you going? Arizona.
Tucson.
Okay, so you probably by 6 p.m. could probably get in fairly easy on a call if you're leaving in the morning for Arizona. Like
Yeah,
that one before.
so long as the graduation isn't at 6 p.m.
That's
on
right.
the evening of the 13th.
Okay, yeah.
So, let's hold off on rescheduling a day.
Okay. So we'll leave it as it stands, and the plan will be for you to contact us unless we can find out something
I should know by
different.
tomorrow, I'll let you know.
I have another offer. On the 15th, which is a week from tonight, we have the public hearing, budget hearing, and is that when we vote? Because that day is Richard's scheduled surgery.
Which day are you talking about? The 13th?
15th,
15th, December 15th?
November, which is next Thursday.
That's our budget
Open,
hearing.
that's
Oh,
our
the budget, yeah, okay.
So just to let everyone, just,
I think I already have
update you on what's going on. I may or may, so do I have to be here to vote, or how do we handle this?
You could also, if you wanted to, you could also
By
call,
phone?
do it telephonically.
I don't know if I will be in an area where I can use the phone, conference phone, that'll be in the hospital.
Or you could
just
go to
use your cell phone.
I use my cell phone.
Cell phone, and we'll have the speakerphone here,
Oh,
so we
okay,
can hear you.
okay. I may or may not, but I may be able to, because the scheduled surgeries in the morning, so hopefully, depending on how long that will take.
Do you know how early? Do you know
It
how early?
starts at 10:30.
And what's he having done?
AAA, aneurysm. Abdominal aorta aneurysm. So just to let you know,
Yeah, that's okay.
okay? Thank you.
And you'll have your
That's
phones in case you.
I'll have my cell phone, yes.
Okay. All
That's
righty.
Come tonight, yeah.
Is there anything else that we need to consider before we dismiss this evening?
I just want to say, to the members of the
Pardon?
bylaws committee, please read.
Right here.
Yeah, I think we
Yes.
will,
And yeah, please keep in mind, yes, this is your final report for the last 10 months, and all the comments have been entered and finalized. So this is it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our bylaws final committee meeting. Thank
well, we
you.
thank the committee for all the work they've done.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a lot of work, and I know you were really, probably very thorough, from what I could gather.
We dissected it like we were just like dissecting a frog.
Okay, so,
Good analogy.
okay. All right, so right now, where are we in our agenda? New business, we've done that, and canceled, we,
Others done?
all right, annual budget hearing, I'm just gonna do others done. And I'm just gonna say, next scheduled meeting is the annual budget public hearing on November 15th, 2018 at 6 p.m. Next regular meeting will be December 13th at 6:30 p.m. And we may have some call-ins to cover everybody. And our work study will be November 28th at 6 p.m. in the same conference room. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? We have to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And ayes went. Opposed? Okay, ayes went. We're done.